Right. Not only can be, but essentially is.
But essentially
if we remove some of the blocks that we put in front of it in the past, and allow people to experience it that way.
Absolutely.
Well, what I've been saying is, why is it that we can only do spirituality at home and at places of worship?
Right.
Why? What says? Where does it say that work is not a place of spirituality?
Well, I'll speak from a Jewish perspective, which, as a rabbi, I mean, the word for work and prayer in Hebrew are the exact same word.
Avodah.
Avodah.
Yeah.
And so the idea, and I say this a lot, and you guys are saying the same thing, is that spiritual practices that aren't employed in your life are simply little momentary feel-good moments.
Yeah.
Right? That the point of spirituality, and I have a follow-up question, I'd love to get both your inputs on it, that spirituality is meant to be transformative.
Yeah.
And the environment that really promotes tremendous transformation besides your home life is your work life.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me just, Vince has just come on board, and so in any new work relationship, I'm assuming I can say this, Vince, you know where I'm going.
Depends on what you're going to say, Martin.
Okay.
you never know what Martin's going to say. But
yeah, I know. That's what I've learned, Alan.
Well,
that's why we love him.
Thanks. There have been strains in our relationship, and we have stopped and addressed those when they come up. And my commitment is that spirituality is not, when it's present and the relationship works, that's wonderful and we make more of it. But when it's restricted, I don't want to say it's gone because I don't think spirituality is ever gone, but when it's constrained or restricted, when the relationship has some tensions, issues, as human relationships do, then that's, for me, really the gold mine of this.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Another friend of mine says, how you fire somebody, how you handle the contentious issues, that's spirituality in the workplace too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what I'd like to drop back a little bit, because we're using this word spirituality, and it gets bandied around a lot. And Martin, you mentioned in 1986 your revelation that it's about God, which is kind of the bedrock of our very existence from my perspective. And you have to define God, but we end up using a lot of words that people have a lot of different connotations with. Some good, some bad. Mm-hmm. God is such a word, and God can mean anything from a very anthropomorphic image to a very ethnocentric image to a very mystical image of kind of the ground of all being that animates our very existence. And it can mean any one of those things, and you don't know until you explore it with the person, and then you think you're having a common dialogue, and you realize you're not.
Yeah.
So when you mention spirituality in the workplace, a lot of people hear religion.
Mm-hmm.
They think religion is about limitations, it's about either or, it's about my way or the highway, it's about divisions, it's about doctrine and control. And they equate that with spirituality. A lot of people also hear the word spirituality and they think of some kind of far out flaky meditation kind of practice. And they can't imagine how that could apply to the workplace. Yeah. So I'm going to ask both of you, and maybe start with you, Vince. What's your definition? How do you define the word spirituality?
Well, I think the way we look at it, and Martin and I have worked on this quite a bit, and Martin has inspired me in terms of this. I think when we say spirituality, what we mean when we say it is we mean the inquiry, the conversation, the questioning, and for the purpose of our center, when we say spirituality, we mean that exploration as it relates to work, of what it means to be at work, what it means to feel meaning at work, what it means to have a purpose, and it's the it's the act of that conversation and discussion and questioning that really forms the basis of spirituality in our view. So it's not about being aligned with, as you said, any one faith tradition or any one religion or anything else, on the other side of the spectrum, but it's about being open and inclusive and having those conversations.
Okay, Martin, anything you want to add to that definition?
Yeah, I just a little more on what Vince said. The reason we've taken that cut at it, Alan, namely that we see spirituality as in the workplace as an inquiry, is because we've realized that there's a huge fear out there about proselytizing.
Right.
As I said earlier, and trying to shove an answer down your throat. So we can't do that because it would disengage too many people. We want to open it up as broadly as possible. So, for example, our PhD students, as I said, existential and meaning, one of them's doing it on job love. One of them's finished actually on spirituality in old age homes. So it's all, and one of our professors is doing a critique on spirituality and work. So across the board, and this came really home to roost for me when I did a conversation once at a company out in Portland, Oregon, and there was about, 20, 25 people in the room, and I just said, to everybody, give me a word or two about what spirituality and work would mean to you. And so they said things like, you could expect faith, compassion, caring, love, ethics, and then one woman said, better drinks in the drink dispenser.
Right.
And we went around the room, and they really bugged me. I didn't understand, what is she talking about? So I came back, and I said, could you please tell me, what do you mean? And she said, well, isn't it obvious? And I said, no, not to me. She said, well, look, if people drink this terrible stuff that comes out of the pops and the high sugar and all that junk, they're not going to have a healthy body, and so where can the soul reside? Where can the spirit reside?
Right.
She said, we've got to have healthy food and drinks in the food and drink dispenser for a healthy body, so we can have a strong place for the soul to rest. And what was brilliant about that answer for me, Alan, was that it taught me that if we come in with any one answer,
right,
you're going to lose 98% of the room, which is not, we don't want to do that. What we want to do is have people engage in this conversation from whatever place they want to do it. Ethics, meaning, purpose, faith, better drinks in the drink dispenser, fine. And then once they're in, then we can show them through all the other stuff that we have to offer. I mean, we do public speaking, roughly once a month people come and speak, and we do that, and all kinds of different ways people can engage. And so they can broaden and deepen it. But if they can't even engage in the first place because they're worried about proselytizing, then the game's over.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what I love about, Vince, your definition, and Martin, where you took it, is that we often think of, and again, as a religious teacher, I come across this all the time and try to be very sensitive to it, is that people hear some of these words as again, limitations, as prescriptions, as done deals, as, this is simply how it is, and if you do it, you're with us, and if you don't, there'll be consequences, often cosmic consequences. And the idea that you're saying, no, the opposite is true. Spirituality is about questioning. It's not about answers. It's about questioning. I think is beautiful, and it's a connotation I think people often don't make, because so often people get the whole structure upside down. They think that spirituality starts with religion, and we work our way up from it. And I tell people religion's at the bottom of the pyramid.
Right.
That it begins with the kind of experience, Martin, you had of the direct experience of God, the direct experience of the divine as it manifests in reality, and that percolates through you in a way that's transformative.
I think it also. Sorry.
And I was about to say, people. What happens is people receive those revelations and they write them down. And then those get kind of received as unchangeable doctrines, and that closes off the whole process. That what you're promoting is that everybody have some kind of revelatory moment through openness to question.
And I think today, in very few arenas, I would say, Alan, the person that says he or she has the answer or has all the answers. That's just not credible or authentic today. I mean,
right.
In today's world, it changes so much in all sorts of arenas. It is changing so much in all sorts of arenas. It's really understanding how to question and ask questions, and understanding how to have conversations, right? Open and authentic conversations with your fellow man or woman, with your colleagues or friends or family members. That's the real essence of our humanity these days. Rather than, as you say, living according to some prescription that comes from somewhere else.